All right, we're live. There we go. Cool. And it's public. I can title it. How do you spell your last or your name, Matthias? We'll just put it with Matthias. So, I wonder if that other one just posted because I accidentally launched one. Yo, what's up, Hassan? Can you check on my channel to see if because I just accidentally streamed for like 1 second before if it posted that one. Audio's on. Cool. It's cool. Do you see the live stream on? Cool. Yeah. All right, we're good. Gonna be jacked up on coffee. I noticed last time when I talk with my hands a lot, it focuses on the hand. Yeah, 'cause it's so good. Hey, would you be able to troubleshoot an issue I'm having with some guard retention against a specific pass if you have a partner today? I do have a partner, and yeah, I can do that. I think next time I'm going to try to have the Discord aspect so that you can like come in so I can actually see you and see what you're doing because I think that would help a lot with being able to help because I can actually see what people are doing. Um, but yeah, go ahead and explain what's happening and I'll go ahead and address it for sure. It's like a 30-second delay. Is it good? Cool. The pass is a double ankle throw by where the guy passing kind of tries to just shuck your legs to the side. Ah, okay. Um, so I guess it's gi or no gi, but you're saying that the guy's grabbing your ankles and just kind of like swaying and then trying to throw. I mean, generally what I would say there, I'll switch over to the webcam. I don't really need the gi for this one. So go to on top. So you're just grabbing the ankles and just trying to throw, yeah, and like throw that way. Yeah, exactly. So the big thing is always to try to keep your knees tight. And I always have my arms on the outside when I'm like in kind of what I would call like grip fighting on my back or like danger mode. So I'm always here, but I have my hands outside. If you're too like up here or like this, I don't know what side he's going to go. So if he throws, I don't have any like frame to defend that. When my hands here and my elbows are already on the floor, they kind of act to keep me centered. So if he say throws me this way, it's not that hard to just kind of block here. So when I block here, it's very difficult for him to get my hip to rotate over. And then when my hip doesn't rotate over, it's easier to use this left foot to catch the bicep or say throw me this way and go that way. So yeah, exactly. See, and I just block there. And whatever and the goal is to always keep your knees tight, right? Because even if I mess up, just like walk around here, right? Even if I mess up or something, as long as this knee is tight, it's hard for him to actually get into side control. You see that? Because this shin is blocking. I have problems with this opens and he can get inside my elbow knee space. So as long as I'm protecting here, I can kind of create space with my shin and work back. So just try not to panic when you're on your back and keep your knees tight. A lot of people, they panic when they're on their back and they start reaching out with their legs and that throws them out. So when you're on your back, knees tight, keep your feet moving like this. Try to get a grip or something. See, now I'm working to De La Riva. And if he backs up a little bit, then I can sit up and do like kind of a technical sit up and then get away a bit to create the space. Cool. Good question. Back to the camera, and boom. There we go. Cool. What's up, Callum Burke? Can you in detail talk me through how you positional spar? Maybe show me with your partner and give some examples of what would make you stop to go back and problem solve. Yeah, for sure. So specific sparring, it can be as specific or detailed as you want it, right? So for example, yeah, I'll go ahead to my partner and kind of explain it. Let me switch over to the mat cam again. All right, go down. And we don't need a gi, it's okay for this. So go down. So I'm going to turn the laptop so we can see. Okay, so um, if I'm specific sparring, right? Like, so let's just say I want to work on my De La Hiva passing, for example. I might start in, and let's just say I don't know much about what to do in De La Hiva passing. We might start from here, and I'll tell Mathias, okay, I want you to try to sweep or submit me, assuming I'm warmed up and like I'm ready to spar, right? I might tell him to just try to sweep or submit me, and then I'm gonna try to pass, right? And then I'm gonna start trying to pass. I trap the leg, go for a knee cut. Maybe he grabs my ankle and then I get knocked over, and that's cool. And then it's like, okay, he swept me. We go again, right? And now we go again. Now I'm kind of like, okay, I need to be aware when I'm trapping this leg to not get ankle picked. So now I'm kind of learning that because he's going to ankle pick me a couple times. So I have to trap this leg, but I can't step too far forward when I trap it because he'll ankle pick me, right? And then maybe like I'm here, and then like, I'm killing the leg. I grab the lapel, and he lassos, right? So keep it, yeah, just like that, right? And then this gives me a hard time. And I kind of notice as we're sparring a lot, that's giving me a really hard time, right? So then, like a lot of problems will pop up. We may come up with creative solutions. I test things, whatever. And then maybe what happens is like I can't come up with a solution for it that day. So then I go online and I find video of like a high level competitor trying to pass De La Hiva. So maybe I look at like Leandro Lowe fighting Felipe Pena or something, and I'll try to skim those matches in those sections and see if I can find a clip where that happens, right? Where he's in the De La Hiva in that position. And then I see, oh, there he grabs the leg and throws it by. Maybe I can try that. And then the next day I come in and train with Mathias again. We start in that position. We go there. When he does it, I give that a try, right? So it's kind of a mix of spending a lot of time in the positions, not only to fix the problem, but also to understand what the mistakes are, right? So I'll go back up here. But also to understand like what the mistakes are. So switching back over to YouTube. Yeah. But to like understand what the mistakes are, right? So when you specific spar, when you're really detailed in the position, it allows you to, yeah, thanks, Bob. When you're really detailed in the position, it allows you to see all the micro problems that are happening, right? So depending on the day and what's going on, sometimes like there may be a problem and we may spend like 2 or 3 minutes there kind of troubleshooting, like, oh, can I do this when he does this? Can I do this when he does that? And like I go really deep like that, right? And then sometimes maybe we just don't have many conversations and we just do like 20 sequences in a row really, really hard where I try to pass, he tries to sweep. And you kind of have to follow your instincts. Like if you feel like, man, this grip kind of feels like it's helpful here, then go there, hold the grip, and tell them, hey, try to resist while I have this grip. See how it works. So it's not one type of thing. You can mix it up, and there's a lot of different modalities you can do with it to help you improve, right? So yeah, sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes there's discussion. Sometimes like, he's trying something. Sometimes you need conversation to like make him give a response you want. So like, let's say that if he does like if we do the same sequence every time, like I grab the lapel, he lassos, okay? Then I come up with a solution that I'm going to try, and then when I go to do it, the next time he does a different response. Sometimes it can be hard to figure out what's working and what's not. So sometimes I'll even tell my partner, hey, I want you to have this specific response. So I'm going to trap the leg, and I'm going to probably try to knee cut, and when I try to knee cut, I want you to try to lasso as hard as you can. So we're still sparring, but I'm telling him the response I would like him to give so that I can prepare and see how that would work in sparring, right? Because if he just rolls as he normally does, maybe he never lassos, right? So then because he never lassos, I never have to deal with that problem. And maybe I only have two training partners because I'm in lockdown or I'm at a gym where there's not that many people. So then I have to tell him to give me responses that I might actually encounter in someone I fight in competition. Because if your only way of training is just based off of the people you have in the gym, you're very limited. If no one in your gym plays worm guard, then you can spar as hard as you want every day. When you go compete and someone puts you in worm guard the first time, you're going to be like, what the fuck's this? You're going to be completely lost. So if you limit yourself to just your training partners in the gym and what their normal games are, you're going to be very limited. So use specific sparring as a way to put yourself in positions that you normally wouldn't encounter in normal sparring in the gym. Okay. Ooh, we got a bunch of questions now. Sean Mannion. I have trouble stopping people standing up in my close guard. Can't move their hands to the mat because they're uh, aware and keep them tense. Train nogi. Well, I don't do a ton of nogi these days, so I'm probably not the best person to ask about the nogi stuff right now. But in general, I would say the idea that you're going to stop someone from standing in your close guard, you can't really do that, right? You can attack when they stand. Like if they stand, you can, hook their leg and go for a waiter sweep kind of thing. But the expectation that like they should never be allowed to stand, I don't think that's actually a realistic expectation. It's often the same. Like people have a question all the time with spider guard or double sleeve. They go, "Oh, people are posturing in my double sleeve or my spider. How do I stop them?" Like there's a way they can control their posture. You can't. You have to adapt around it. So with closed guard, of course, I can try to control the grips and stuff. I'll switch to the mat real quick. Um, Go to the mat, closed guard. So the main thing in closed guard is that he wants posture, right? For him to stand or do anything, he needs posture. He can't really stand with his head down well. And for most of the submissions, I need to break his posture. So I'm always kind of using, just leave your hands in the air. I'm always using like my knees to kind of pull him forward. And then he's going to post his hands in different places for balance. It might be on my chest. It might be on the floor. If he posts his hands on the floor for balance, then it gives me a kimura, or I can like overhook here like this side, right? And I can start going for triangles, right? It could be he posts like on my chest like this, and then I could grab the tricep, start working a high guard. If he goes one high, one low, I could break the grip and start going across and go here. So when he stands, he has to have some kind of a grip to be able to stand up. So stay down, right? So one thing you can focus on is keep your elbows kind of tight and just try to pay attention to his grips. Because if I'm here, he can get his hands in the armpit, and that's annoying, right? But when I'm here, it's very hard to get good grips like that, right? So I can kind of control the sleeves and wrist, and every time he starts trying to stand a little bit, starts standing, I can kind of bump him forward, right? And use that to set something up. But ultimately, if the guy wants to be really aggressive, boom. If the guy wants to be really aggressive and switch to standing, you can't really stop him. You just have to learn how to build around it. Good question. Do I need to build more muscle in order to play guard, or just keep doing it in order to gain the strength that I need? I essentially just started to actually play guard using my hips and stuff. If that, then this. So the question of like, do you need strength to be good at jiu-jitsu, or do you need strength to develop a guard? Clearly, strength isn't everything, right? Like, I mean, if you see Mikey Musumeci fight that Saeed guy who's like 300 pounds, and also Mikey had a very close match with Muhammad Ali, which arguably he could have got an extra advantage. So strength, clearly, Mikey's like 130 something pounds, and he's fighting a guy who's 200 plus pounds and like a world champion. So you don't have to have strength to be able to be very successful, right? Um, but I think the thing, but strength does matter, right? So the question is like, what is the minimum amount of strength that is required to be able to do well? And I think like, I mean, if you're like 160 pounds or something and you already have like a decent level of strength, I don't think that's the biggest limiting factor for you. But if you have, if you're like 130 pounds and like, it could be diminishing returns. Like, how much do you weigh? Coffee here. In the meantime, I'll take another question. Let's see here.
if you wanted to develop a crab ride position more, who are a couple people you recommend studying? Obviously, Tommy and Espen, Mikey Musumeci, Nick Sals and Daniel Myra have like amazing crab rides and bolos and amazing knowledge over it too. They can explain it really well, so that's like really, really good. Um, wolfingacademy.com, they have great information on their site. Uh, Levi uses the crab. Levi Leary Jones from Australia, who trains at Unity in New York, also has very good crab rides, so he's a good guy to study for sure. Um, I guarantee Mike is strong as a little ape. For sure, I'm sure Mikey is very strong, but still relative to Muhammad Ali, I would say he's probably not that strong. But the kind of strength that matters more is like the strength relative to your body weight, right? So like if you're not capable of doing a single pull up, then even if I can do a pull up, regardless if my opponent is 1,000 pounds or 100 pounds, if I pull myself against them, like pulling on their sleeves, I'm only pulling my body weight, right? So strength relative to your own body weight matters, but there's a level of like diminishing returns that I think is a major factor. So when people are looking to strength as like a limiting factor in the development of their game, I think the main thing is to consider is like what's their current strength level. If you're at the level that you're like say you're 150 pounds and you can't bench press 120 pounds or something, then strength may be a factor for you. It's worth getting up to a certain level, but there is a point of diminishing returns. If you're like 150 pounds and you can bench press 200 pounds, probably being able to go from 200-pound bench press to 250-pound bench press isn't going to be the thing that takes you to the next level. But if you have great technique and you can only bench 100 pounds, getting to the point that you can bench 185 is probably going to make a substantial difference. So it's worth considering, but it's not the main thing. I would say it's the same thing with like mobility, right? With mobility, if you're already hyper flexible and you can like put your foot behind your head, getting an extra 20% is probably not going to make that big of a difference. But if you're like the guy who does the butterfly stretch and like it's like hard to move out here, arguably like 3 weeks of stretching may be more beneficial to your development than even another 3 weeks of jujitsu training might be, just because giving that extra range can make such a difference in your development. Want to play CS with me? Yeah, I don't have Counter Strike. I mean, I have a badass gaming computer right now, so I haven't really played much Counter Strike, but I can get into it. Right now, I've been playing a bit of Borderlands, and then I got my VR is back in Sweden, so I need to have that delivered here to play with all the guys on the live stream. But we can stream it and play for sure. Um, Alessandro Echevarria said, "Any advice for being the shortest guy in pretty much all divisions?" Uh, Well, I mean, I'm a tall, lanky guy, so any advice I give on this, people are going to kind of undercut because I'm a tall, lanky guy. What I would say is like, be careful with uh, looking to your physical attributes as the cause of a lot of problems and difficulties in your game, because sometimes it may be true, but a lot of times it will not be. So very often I'll show a technique, and like it might be something I learned from Cobrinha, training with Cobrinha, and those who know Cobrinha, he's not a very tall guy, right? And it's something that Cobrinha uses all the time, and I will show it because I learned it from Cobrinha, and I'll show it at a seminar. Someone will raise their hand and be like, "John, I'm too short to do this. What do I do?" And it's like, well, actually, the guy who showed it to me is shorter than you, and he uses it all the time. So when you start jumping to the conclusion that you're too short to do something, it can become a super limiting belief. Now, the hard thing is that there may be times that it is true that you are like being shorter makes a technique more difficult, but you need to be very aware of when you're saying that it's because of technique and when you're saying or when you're saying it's because of technique, because it may not be. So for me, the biggest defining factor in what I'm doing, it's never like the guy's size, strength, or height. Almost always the biggest deciding factor in what to do is the guy's responses, right? So someone could be like, people often think like, what's the best move versus a big guy, or what's the best move for a short guy? Um, it doesn't matter as much that I'm tall or he's short or he's big or I'm small. What matters to me more is what's the body position he's in, right? So, for example, if I'm fighting, like people might say, oh, I don't like to use whatever guard on a big guy. Well, if I'm fighting a big guy and his knee is bent like this, it's really easy to put a De La Hiva hook in. So I'm going to put the De La Hiva hook in. But like I could say I like to play De La Hiva on a big guy or a small guy, but if his leg is straight as a board, I can't put the De La Hiva hook in. So you don't really have time in the match to think too much about, oh, he's big, so therefore I should do this. I design my game such that all the techniques I'm using are going to be effective regardless of the guy's size. If there's a technique that I have that I feel like doesn't work because if the guy's too tall, it's not going to work, then I wouldn't use it anyway. But honestly, I can't think of many techniques that are like that. Like, can you give me an example of a technique that you feel you cannot successfully pull off because you're too short? Sorry, guys, I'm trying to go through all the questions. I'm like losing track of where I'm at here. Demian, the backpack Maya, when are we going to see you in Nogi? Well, probably not anytime soon. Right now, I'm just really focused on the development of my gi game and the building the following and stuff. But I wanted to do an Australia tour coming up. Well, before the pandemic hit, but whenever things open back up, I want to do an Australian seminar tour. And I know I was going to visit Lachlan's gym and do a seminar, so I feel like that would be a good time to pick up some Nogi while I'm training with him, perhaps. Um, okay, so Dimitar Angelov said, I am new to BJJ and trained for 2 months. Really like to play guard. And my question is, what other guards except the closed guard should I start looking at as a white belt? I would say collar sleeve and double sleeve are my two favorite intro guards, just because you can use them regardless if your opponent is on both knees, one knee up, or standing, right? If you try to say build off like a De La Hiva guard or something where you're holding the ankle, it can be really hard because your opponent may not stand, right? Or he may be standing with the opposite leg and it's very difficult to play it on both sides. Collar sleeve or double sleeve will work on both sides, right? So I would say collar sleeve and double sleeve first. The benefit with collar sleeve first over double sleeve is it's easier to get to. Sometimes getting both sleeves can be kind of tricky. But once you know how to do it, it's very easy to get. But the benefit of double sleeve is it's way easier to control. Once you know how to control it, like if I train one class with someone and show them the basics of holding double sleeve, in one day, they can successfully hold like a blue or a purple belt in the position and stall, rest, think about what they want to do, and move forward, right? Collar sleeve has a lot more moving parts, but it is easier to set up because all you need is to get the collar and one sleeve, and that's way easier to get than both sleeves, right? So that's why I say both. So ease to get to, collar sleeve is easier to get to. But ease of control, double sleeve is easier to control in the beginning. In the end, you want to have both. So I would say right now, collar sleeve, double sleeve, hands down, are the best start points for a white belt to develop an open guard game. Um, what was any advice for being the shortest guy in pretty much all divisions? And then your follow up was, I guess I meant more tactically. Um, Yeah, I mean, back to the short versus tall discussion again. I guess, yeah, again, tactically, I wouldn't think any different at all. I have to take what he's giving me. Like I can't approach the guy thinking he's tall, I want to do this, because it's more likely like if he approaches me, he could put his right hand forward or his left hand forward. And I'm going to build my game off of what he gives me, not what I want. So if I'm looking at like, oh, he's tall, I'm going to do XYZ. I can't really do that because it all depends on what he gives me. So if he gives me his right sleeve, I'm going to take the right sleeve and then try to build a lasso game off this side, right? And then he may try to step his foot forward in posture, and then I switch to this ankle grip. So just really trying to build off of um, the opponent's size is not a very easy thing to build off. It's way more likely to build off of what the grips that they are giving you and presenting you and what you want to take next. I would say if you want to build a game that is designed around the fact that you're short, uh, just make sure to pay attention to any technique that you feel doesn't work well versus someone much taller than you and eliminate that from your game. But honestly, there's not many positions I can think of like that. Like maybe De La Hiva X is one that is a little bit harder if the guy's significantly taller than you. So that might be one, but most every other guard, including Spider Guard, I've like Cobrinha had an amazing Spider Guard, and I learned a lot of it from him, and he's very short, right? So most every guard I think works well whether you're tall or short. De La Hiva X maybe stay away from a little bit. Triangle chokes, everyone based off of their height and or their length and flexibility level kind of has a maximum limit of how heavy someone can be when they triangle choke them. So maybe be careful with that and switch to an omoplata with a bigger guy. But in general, it does not a major factor for me. When I fight someone big or someone small, it doesn't change a ton of what I do. Um, Drew Jitsu. Do you think redheads are generally stronger than non-redheads? Dead serious on this question. I'm a redhead and hear this all the time, and I feel most redheads I grapple are ape strong. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that too. I have always had kind of like natural kind of wrestling strength. I don't know the science behind this. I did read before that like redheads are more resistant to pain, and they usually have to give them more anesthetic when they do surgery. So that's my bro science perspective. Uh, Donald Hughes, agree, John. Newer training partners tell me I'm strong and flexible. I'm not. I'm just using leverage in positions. I'm 145 pounds and only mildly flexible. Yeah, for sure. And it's like, does flexibility matter? Of course. Does strength matter? Of course, right? But often not that much. And if you start looking for that as the explanation for problems, then you're not going to find the answers, right? You have to 100%. But if I roll with someone who's like 200 pounds and on steroids, and I'm out of shape and they beat me, of course I can point to some of those things like, oh, well, yeah, he is on steroids. But ultimately I'm like, no, I'm not technical enough. I should be so technical that like I can stall him, even if I'm out of shape. I should be so technical that I know how to control him, rest when I need to. Always blame technique. Always blame yourself, because if you have this mindset that the reason that you're not winning is some sort of physical attribute that is out of your control, you're never going to get to the level you need to be, because you're always going to doubt yourself. The explanation or the analogy I always give is like, if you give someone a puzzle to solve and it's like 10,000 pieces, right? It's very, very, very difficult to solve that puzzle. But if I give you that puzzle and I say the pieces may or may not fit, then it's like impossible, because you're always going to doubt yourself. You're always going to second guess yourself when you're trying to solve it, because you're always, oh, maybe they don't even fit, right? So if you have this lingering thing in the back of your head that the reason that you lose or something goes wrong is because you're too short, because you're not flexible enough, whatever, then then you're always going to hold yourself back. You're always going to use that as an excuse. Now, of course, if it's like being flexible, you can work on your flexibility, right? So work on your flexibility. But if it's like I'm too short or the guy's bigger than me, you can't really change that, right? So then try not to think about it too much, right? Um, let's see here. Slap bump roll. Do you prefer to try to submit from side control or transition to mount or back to finish? When I'm in side control, I like to focus on knee on belly a lot, or going to the back. A lot of times, I feel like if you're smaller, oftentimes I find it a little bit easier for me to hold side control than or sorry, hold knee on belly than side control. Um, but you can do both. But I kind of prefer knee on belly, and often I go for like a collar choke, and then I'll bait them to go back to half guard, and then I threaten the collar choke from the half guard position. I found it's a lot easier for me to control someone when I'm in half guard with like a collar choke grip than it is for me in pure side control. So, maybe that's something that's a little bit body type dependent on what you prefer. I think both work, but for me, I always find I like knee on belly the most. And then I threaten so much from there, often they will turtle and give up the back. Uh, Emiliano Mercado said, "What is a good half guard sweep for a beginner?" Um, I think the Lucas Lech half guard or the Coyote half guard. I just did a video on passing it, but if you watch that, at least gives you a reference of what the position is. It's where you wrap their whole hip and grab their hip, and then you can work up to the back. You can roll them to the side. There's a ton of attacks in there. Lucas Lech, Lucas space Leite, I think. He's the guy who really made the position famous, so you can check him out. And there's a lot of stuff there, but I think for like a basic half guard game, that's just a great start point. It's a very powerful guard. Um, uh, what is okay? Mischief Mike, you still playing around with the Vice Guard stuff at all? Yeah, for sure. I kind of go through phases and what I'm working on. So I developed the Vice Guard, and then I was working that Sorry about the mic. Yeah. So, yeah, basically, I just go in these phases of what's exciting to me. So, Vice Guard, I'm probably going to get back to it soon, but more recently, I've been focused on passing a lot. So, the audio is back now, I think, right? Yeah, so more recently I've been focusing on passing a lot, so that's kind of been my kick. But when I go back into a guard circuit again, I'll be doing a lot more Vice Guard again for sure. I think the big thing with Vice Guard for most people who are trying to get into it, the big thing is setup. You need to be really good with the setups. You need to have you need to have a collar sleeve game, a double sleeve game, and a cross sleeve game to really be able to effectively set it up a lot. When you set it up, it's extremely powerful. It's very, very hard to stop. It's heavy on submissions, heavy on taking them back or mounting. It's hard for them to fall to their guard and get out of. So it's an extremely powerful guard. The main thing is you need the good open guard to be able to set it up effectively. Um, hey, Josh, as a 1 year wipeout, should I focus on escapes, a good half guard, a good guard before even considering top game, as that will help me survive against higher belts in future in jiu-jitsu? From Abbas 15. Yeah, I would definitely focus on guard first. The main reason I say guard first is that to understand passing, like you can grab someone off the street who's never trained, bring them into a gym and tell them get around the person's legs, and they'll like half figure it out. It's like, okay, grab the legs, throw the legs to the side, and jump on them, right? So that's kind of intuitive. So everyone can kind of intuitively be okay on top. But if you grab someone off the street and say play from your guard, that makes no sense, right? So to really develop a good understanding of jiu-jitsu, you need to understand the guard well. So even though I prefer passing, honestly, you want to develop a guard first because you understand how guard retention works. You understand how to finish an armbar, a triangle choke. That's like the foundational understanding of jiu-jitsu. And then when you start going into passing, you're going to understand better what the guys are trying to do to you. You'll understand the threats they're doing, the controls they're doing, and then you start learning how to technically dissect those grips, as opposed to kind of building your game more off of like trying to break grips and run away and not really understanding, right? There's a big difference between developing through understanding and like trying to fight, right? Like understanding is trying to actually understand, okay, they put a lasso on me, what can I do in the lasso? And like really focusing on that. A lot of people, they don't focus on like trying to understand what's happening. Instead, they focus on like trying to win. And of course, there's a time for that. I have rounds like maybe 2 times or 3 times a week where I'm fighting, I'm really trying to win hard, and it's like a tournament mode. But a lot of time I'm doing specific sparring, and I'm still sparring hard, but I'm exploring what happens with different moves and different grip patterns to see how it develops and learn, right? Because if you just uh, if you just try to go hard all the time, you're not observing what's happening to you, right? So like if he tries to go for my sleeve, no, I'm not going to let him get the sleeve. He tries to grab my collar, no, I'm going to let it grab my collar, and I'm just going to try to jump from a distance. You're never going to like actually develop an understanding of what's happening. And I want to get to the point that I understand things so well that I can like in a calm, cool manner enter the guard, understand the grips they're doing, and know tactically what I'm doing to counter it. That's the dream. You don't want to have to always be in like war mode to be able to beat someone. My dream is to be able to come into the gym hungover after a fun night out partying with friends and roll with someone, and just like even though they're in amazing shape, I can like tactically dissect everything because I'm in the right position. Think about it this way: if you're like a brown belt and you roll with like a white belt or a blue belt in the gym, even if you're out of shape, usually you don't even get tired because you're so much more knowledgeable than them, right? So I'm always trying to get to a point that I'm so knowledgeable that I can defeat the issues I'm having through understanding, right? Now that may take longer in some ways because you have to really do deep understanding, but it's the only way that's going to scale well. It's the only way that's going to scale well versus someone who's much bigger and stronger than you, and someone who's on performance enhancers. And as you age, you know, when I'm like 40, I want to still be able to do this, and I don't want my whole game to be attribute based, right? So I'm going to get my Coke. All right. Let's see what we got here. Eternal Elitist. Do you ever use a modified De La Riva X from sit-up guard while retaining a connection around the opponent's knee pit or grip by the knee pit? I don't. Oh, knee pit. Okay, let me see here. Connection around the opponent's. Yeah, well, usually when I go to De La Riva X with a single leg grip, I usually get De La Riva X first and then go to the single leg guard grip, right? I don't usually go single leg guard to De La Riva X, because if I have the single leg guard, I feel so good at sweeping from there. I just don't feel like it's a necessary step in the process. It's more of a step back. I just stay tight on the leg. I can show you here real quick. All right, let's switch over to the mat cam. Boom. All right. And throw your gi top on. Yeah. Thanks, bud. All right, so, oh man, my finger's jacked. All right, so yeah, I might be playing here like this, and I'll set up De La Riva X. There's a few different ways, but we'll just say we set it up with this sleeve. So I'll lift with either the foot on the hip, or if this leg is a little bit closer to me sometimes, step that closer. Yeah, sometimes I'll use my shin on their thigh like this, but I have to get lift, right? So I lift, and then I hit here with the De La Riva X, right? Like that. Once I sit up here, I can start going for this high lapel grip. A lot of times I'll bring him to the floor forward like this, and I switch up to this high lapel grip here. Now I can keep this sleeve and bump him forward. Go back. Another way I'll do this is if I do it with a cross sleeve, which can be very effective because then he can't push my De La Riva leg down, right? Is we'll be here, right? And I'll just try to be nice with this for now. Is I'm going to lift, hit here, and as soon as I hit De La Riva X, I grab the armpit. I'm going to tuck this, and I put my right foot on the floor to drive him forward. This will either flip him overhead, which I'm not going to do here. Usually he's going to post his left hand and drop his left knee to the floor. And we end up like this with the De La Riva X here. From here, I'll often go into this single leg position here and grab extremely high on the lapel. This is one of the most powerful sweeps. This is how Mergali swept Leandro Lowe at Worlds in like 2019, I think, or 18, when he beat him the first time at Worlds. He got this super high lapel grip, and then you can just put your right hand on the floor and technical stand up. You don't even have to be good at a single leg to finish that, right? So that's like how I mix single leg and the De La Riva X. But I don't, if I have the single leg, I don't usually switch back the De La Riva X because I feel like that sit-up guard system that Lucas Lepre does. If you ever saw the video I did with Lucas Lepre, it kind of goes over that system. I find that one is extremely effective. All right, switch back up to the... There we go. Okay, great question. If that, then this. Said, how do you balance thinking and not thinking during your rolls? So first off, there's a distinction between rolling to win and rolling to learn, okay? When I'm competing in a tournament, or if I'm rolling in the gym in such a way that I'm treating it like a tournament so that my goal is to perform and do as good as I can to win that match, okay? In those matches, I do not want to be thinking at all. I should be responding 100% on my instincts, right? It's all like I know everything already. I don't have to think about it. It's just go, 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 go. You have to be in instinct kill mode when you're fighting like that. But when I'm trying to develop, I'm thinking a lot. But you're always going to underperform when you're thinking because you're caught in your head. If you're trying to win and you go into a match and you're thinking like, okay, should I go here? Should I do... When you're thinking, you're not acting. The other guy is just coming at you. You're going to get messed up, right? So you can't be doing that. But when you're trying to develop, you need to think to change your patterns to something new, right? Because if you take a guy who's never trained before and you go, just act, trust your instincts, his instincts are going to be shit, right? He doesn't know what to do. So he's just going to, he's going to do something stupid and it's not going to work, right? But still, that's the best he could do because he would actually do better just going, blah, than he would if you show him like the idea of an armbar and he goes into his first sparring match and starts trying to mess around with it. He'll just get killed because he's in his head thinking, right? So that's where I like specific training a lot, or just roles where I know I'm trying to develop. Because when I'm specific training, I can be in the position and go, well, what would happen if I pull up here? Maybe this would help, or I saw the guy do this in the video. I have time to think and mess up and make mistakes. So you shouldn't be, if you're trying to win, you should not be thinking much. You should be acting. If you're trying to develop, then do specific training, start in a specific position, and you can think before the round what you're going to work on. Like, okay, I'm going to try to kill the leg. I start in De La Riva, and I'm going to focus on killing the leg and try to pass from there. Go. And then you do it and then see what happens. Like, oh man, he knocked me over this way. Maybe I shouldn't push it so hard. Maybe just push it a little bit. See how that is. Go. Right? And then you can think and test ideas between rounds. So that's when you should be thinking. After the roll, reflecting. Before the roll, thinking about what you want to do. Watching video, analyzing. There's a lot of time for thinking. But when you're trying to win, all the work should have done before that. If you're in a match that you're trying to win, all the thinking, all the reflecting, all the analysis stuff, that's what you do way before to prepare for it, right? If you're having to think constantly in a match, you're in trouble and you're going to inhibit your ability to act. So think after the fact, think before the fact, think when you're doing specific sparring, but when you're rolling, you need to fight. Cool. Good question. That was an excellent question. Um, Jacob Isaacs. It's easy for me from a keymaster position where I make them post on their hands. I'm not really sure what that was in reference to. Uh, okay, let's see here. Jacob Isaacs' question about the matrix. I'm trying to see the original question. I don't see the original question. Any solutions to my issue using the matrix backtake? When they are postured tall, it seems they have much weight on their legs. Well, I'm not exactly sure the position you're in, but so I'm just going to go based off of what I think you might be in, what kind of a situation I think you might be in. So let me switch over to the mat cam here. Okay. So let's just suppose somehow I'm getting here from, say, a cross guard situation like this, right? And I have the sleeve. So if I'm here and I throw over, if you have the expectation that you always have to buckle him to the floor, then that might be why you think that. So like stand up really tall and make your leg very strong. So I may not be able to do that, but I can grab here and come around behind, right? So you can just follow him even though he's standing. Now if he keeps standing really tall, right? Now I can't pull him down. I'm going to come around to this baby bolo position. I could try to pull him down here. Even then, if you couldn't and he's leaning forward, you can then pull and come up to the back standing, right? So I think likely that's probably what's happening. Throw the hook over and then just follow it. Bring your left leg out like that so you can circle around, go to the baby bolo. If he keeps leaning forward, then just stand up and go to the back. You don't always have to get that like leg buckling motion like a calf slicer to be able to pull it off. Jason Keaton. Hey, what's up, Jason? Good to see you, bud. Uh, or good to read your text. uh, do you believe coaching during rolling is helpful? Absolutely. Coaching, if it's done correctly, coaching during rolling is immensely helpful, right? Like specifically if it's like specific sparring. Like if I have Mathias starting in, say, the spider guard, right? I'm watching him roll, and then I see a problem pops up for him, and he doesn't know what to do. When that happens, I can be like, Mathias, turn your left palm up. I can correct him real time. That is one of absolutely hands down the best ways to improve is live coaching during rolling, but only from someone who really knows how to coach well and really knows the position well. Unfortunately, most of the coaching people get, not to be condescending, is very vague generalities. It's stuff like use your hips or like get him, go hard. Yeah, like that's not helpful. If anything, that can stress people, right? Also, coaching in a tournament is different than coaching to develop someone. If I'm coaching someone in a tournament and they don't play double sleeve, and I come into them to coach them, and they're comfortable with whatever they do, and I'm like, dude, grab his sleeve, go lasso here, do that stresses people out. It does not help them at all. If they don't know that system, me trying to talk them and force them to use some system they're not comfortable with in the middle of a match is going to stress them, annoy them, and like make them do way worse than they already would do. So if I'm coaching someone that I don't really know well or that their game is very different than mine, I'm going to give them the time. I'm going to like, give them confidence booster like you're doing good, like watch your cardio, make sure you're breathing, like little simple things like that, right? If I'm coaching a student I know extremely well and I know their game, then I can remind them of their game. Like if they're playing double sleeve and it's not working well, I'll go, hey, don't forget your collar sleeve game. It's really good too. Like I can give specific advice to that student. Now, if I'm in the gym and I'm trying to develop someone, not coach them in a tournament setting, then I would do more like specific training coaching. Okay, we're going to start in the sit-up guard. We're going to spar from there. go. And then as they're fighting, I'll go, hey, grab the leg here, do this. Or I might even say freeze. I'll go over and go, okay, change your hand here. Okay, ready? Go. And then I can do that. And then you can constantly adjust them during the specific sparring. To me, that's hands down the fastest way to make someone improve. No problem if this, then that. Happy to help. Joshua, in a way, I ask my high purple brown coach my roles during open mat. Often feedback like you have to move, post, break, posture have all been very helpful. Cool. Uh, as a tall, lanky guy, do you prefer to stay pinching knees when you are passing from HQ position, or do you prefer to sit on the leg like JT Torres? So this is often a question that kind of comes up. The whole idea of the HQ position, I kind of don't really think HQ. To me, it's not a useful way to think of passing, right? What I mean by that is like, let me show with the mat here. Okay. I maybe mentioned this on the last live stream, I'm not sure, but yeah. So basically, traditionally, what people mean when we say HQ is like I have this leg trapped here, and it's like this, okay? And then people are like, I'm in HQ. I'm not really in HQ. I'm in whatever grip he has, okay? So if I'm here and he's holding my ankle with his left hand, right? It's completely different than if he's holding my sleeve with his left hand, right? And that's completely different than if that right hand is on my collar or if it's on my ankle for reverse De La Hiva. Okay, so all of these grips are going to require different responses. So I can't step into HQ and be like, I'm in HQ, now I'm going to do this, because everything's built off him. So if I step in, I may be trying to pass before grips, but then he grabs my ankle and gets to De La Hiva. Well, now I'm thinking, okay, I want to do some De La Hiva passing here, and now I'm going to try to do my De La Hiva knee cut. And in here, I don't. Sometimes if he has my collar, I'll do this to catch my balance with my knee. But a lot of times I like to be relatively straight leg because I'm faster to knee cut. When you go here, I have to lift my right leg up. It's very hard, right? But it depends on the pass you want to do. If you're here, you might be able to folding pass easier. So it all depends on the grips you want to build. But if I'm in De La Hiva and I've trapped his leg, which some people would call that HQ, but to me, I just say I'm in De La Hiva and I trap the leg, right? Here, I would be relatively straight leg, open the knee, and go for a knee cut, like the low cut video I did. But I could be here, and then he has a lasso, and I'm here. And now it's a completely different thing. Here, I would get my inside C grip on his ankle, circle out this way, and pressure up and start trying to stack pass, or turn this into a knee cut, or smash towards the De La Hiva side. And my whole leg positioning and everything is different. So the idea that there's like an HQ position that I'm in that I'm always going to kind of like build off the HQ, to me, I don't think of it that way because I'm always paying attention to what grip the guy has on me. Does he have my sleeve? Does he have my collar? Does he have my ankle? All of my decisions are going to be built off of the grips that he has. I can't do what I want. I have to do what he is exposing, right? That's a common misconception, I think. People really like this idea that it's like, make the guy play your game. He plays your game. You force your game on him. But that's not how jiu-jitsu works, right? Like both people are reacting to the other, okay? So basically my opponent dictates the match. Now I know a lot of people don't like the sound of that because it sounds like you're putting him in control. But at the same exact time, to him, I dictate the match as well. We both dictate it to each other. So when I'm going with Mathias, if he's leading with his left hand forward, I can only do the set of options that are available when his left hand is forward. I can't do what I would like to do alternatively. I can't think beforehand, I want to do this. I have to react to what he is giving me, not what I want, right? So that's why from a passing model perspective, I'm more looking at, okay, he's on his back. Is he centered? Is he on his side left? Is he on his side right? Right? Are his legs low? Are they high? Right? So what grips do I go first? I can go with a pant grip at the right hand, a pant grip at the left hand. So I'm starting from the first grip and building forward. And if I grab his lapel with my right hand, he could grab my sleeve or my collar. If he grabs my sleeve, okay, it's going to look like collar sleeve passing, right? If he grabs my collar, okay, it's going to be like collar, and then it could become collar sleeve or it could become collar ankle. And I have a different answer for each one of those. So you have to build off of the grips they're giving you. You can't just decide what you want to do. Cool. All right, guys, let's do one more question, and then I'm going to try to get Tommy and Espen on one of these soon, too. And then I'm going to try, as soon as I buy the camera from my buddy here, I'm going to try to do some live streams where I do my own video study for my own development, and I'll just let you guys kind of watch that process. I think it'd be really cool for you guys. Um, Okay. Tintin asked the question, hey John, how do you develop specific training with an analytical focus when your gym consists of partners that just want to fight? It's hard to translate knowledge to skill in such an environment. Yeah, it really is. And this is a common issue a lot of people have. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't really think for themselves. They just kind of follow what the mass does. So if you're in a gym where you want to train smart, you want to do specific training, but you don't have anyone that wants to do that, the most important thing you can do is seek out finding your core training partner. That's something that a lot of people don't think about. They think, well, you show up to the gym, you train, and you're only as good as the gym teaches you, right? But from day one, I always took the initiative to teach myself, right? Like I taught myself my first armbar by watching Hoist Gracie in the UFC and rewinding it and pressing play and doing slow motion with like the old VHS tapes, right? So that's how I taught myself my first armbar. Um, and what you have to do is if you don't have someone in your gym, and I would do that with my friends from school before I had a gym, right? I would just invite them over to my house and I would annoy friends until I could get someone to come over to help me. Then I started at a gym and then I started watching like competition footage with like the old VHS tapes from like the old like 2000 like Mundials in Brazil. And I would watch stuff and I would see people do things and I would call all my friends until I could get someone to come over, right? So the most important thing honestly, the most important thing to get your game to the next level, it might not be any technique issue. It might be putting the groundwork in to find that core training partner that you can build with, right? I talked to like Espen and Tommy a lot about a lot of the things they did that made them get to where they got to, and also I feel like I'm observing it from kind of an external lens. And I think my take on it, like a lot of their success, is that they found each other. They're both highly motivated people, and they both happen to bump into each other and be at the right place at the right time, so they both could develop off each other. So the most important thing you could do beyond the technique, beyond everything else, if you want to get really good at this sport, is probably find your one or two core training partners that you can build off, that you can always be doing specific training and test ideas and stuff. Because if your only format of training is just going to the normal class, doing the drills that the coach shows, and then maybe watching a video, and then only going to class, you're never going to get to where you want to be. You have to have private time to work on things. And the key thing with that is finding a key person that you can work with. And that means calling people, messaging people, talking to people after class, but put that work in. It's going to pay off. That's what's going to get you to the next level 100%. Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. It was great doing it again. I guess you guys have probably noticed I'm cutting some of these clips so you guys can take some of the best sections and see those little short ideas out there. I'll be doing another one soon, probably in a few days. Thanks for joining, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot. All right. Awesome.